You've got all the expensive gear, you've done all your research, and still your photos aren't coming out sharp. Why is that? Well, I'm going to give you 2 scientific reasons and 1 simple solution as to how we can fix this, because it's all going on inside your lens. We love stopping down on our lenses. Being able to get that nice shallow depth of field like you can see behind me is something that people crave. And often lenses are a lot more expensive if you want to be able to get those f1.4s, f1.8s. But did you know that at those apertures, the lens is usually at its weakest? That's because when you stop down that much, you start to introduce things such as chromatic aberration, which are those horrible purple green hues you can get on the edges of objects in your subject, and spherical aberration as well, which gives you a softer, less in focus look. Alright, so we don't want spherical and chromatic aberration, so why don't we shoot to f22? After all, when we're shooting up at f22, that's usually a better option, right? Especially for landscapes, because you've got everything in focus, or as much in focus as you physically can. Problem is, as you go on to the other end of the spectrum, you start to introduce other issues. Issues such as, with all the light coming through such a small hole, you're now causing it to scatter and interfere with itself as it goes through your lens. And that will result and manifest itself as blurry images, less detail. So science dictates that we should try and avoid shooting at the far end of the spectrum, at the wider ends and at the f16s, f22s when you were closing that aperture. So where's the sweet spot? That's the big question. The sweet spot varies by lenses to lenses, from your prime lenses, telephoto lenses. The sweet spot for a 50mm Canon lens might be a completely different sweet spot for a Sony lens. There's hundreds of different variations. The rule of thumb that people like to follow is whatever the widest aperture your lens can do, up that by 3. So if your lens is, say, an f1.8, you'll probably find that an f4 might be the best option if you follow that rule of thumb. The problem is, like with all things, it depends, and there's never going to be an overarching rule that you can apply which is going to help and always solve the case. The truly best way that you can find out how sharp your lens is by conducting your own experiment. Luckily, this experiment is cheap, quick, easy, and anyone can do it. But for that, you're going to need your camera, your tripod, your lens, and a Dr. Pepper can. Alright, so we're here in the garden. I've got my camera, tripod, I've got my lens I want to test, and I've got my trusty Dr. Pepper can. So I'm going to set it up just to the center of the frame, which will be on the far left-hand side of the barrel. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to see how sharp the picture is in the center at each aperture, but also on the edges as well. So also on the periphery. All right, now when you're doing this, there's a few things you've got to make sure that you do correctly. First one is you're going to be in aperture priority. Second thing, you're going to have your ISA set to 100 and leave it force there, or as low as your camera will go. We just don't want to be introducing any sort of noise or grain into the picture. Finally, you're going to want to turn off image stabilization on your camera, and you're going to want a 2-second delay put in. 2-second delay is just so when you hit that shutter button, there's not any vibrations going through the screen and then the lens and then onto your photos. So when you're ready, simply focus, 2 seconds, that's 1 at f1.8, 2.0, f2.2. This could take a while. We'll fast forward this bit up in editing. Right, there we are. Now, let's get inside and look at the pictures. Okay, so having got back and have gone through all the results, I'm actually quite surprised with what I've seen. So, unsurprisingly, f1.8, f22 were not sharp. But actually, the sharpest I found was f8, which goes against that rule of your widest open aperture plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. So, that goes to show you that rules of thumb don't work. You just go and conduct your own experiments, own testing, And especially if you want to take this hobby seriously, you sometimes, these opportunities don't last forever. You might get to an awesome lookout point. You might be somewhere really unique. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to capture this image, and you need to be able to bang, like put in your aperture, know exactly where your lens is going to be the sharpest, and really capitalize on that moment. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. There are billions of videos on YouTube you can be watching, and you spent the last couple of minutes listening to me. Hopefully it's been helpful. If you liked it, hit subscribe. I'm trying to hit 10 subscribers by the end of the year, so it would make my day if you do. Thanks very much. See ya! Hey, if you're still struggling with the basics, watch this video over here. I talk about everything that you need to know to start taking great photographs in manual mode. Check it out.